Hello there, one and all, and thank you very much for tuning into episode 538 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise, live on YouTube. As always, you're very, very welcome whether you're watching the live or you're watching the recording. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please do consider doing so. You should be able to see a link to my Ko-fi page in the video description below if you would like to find out how you can support my work, and you should also be able to see a link to my Substack. First comment goes to Alex, who says, hello everyone. Mice is here as well saying hello, so is Dushan. And Gavin says, ooh, I'm interested in this as a devotion pour femme wearer. And Mitrakai is just completely trying to mess with my head by saying, have you recovered now? No, in fact, if anything, I've probably less recovered. And that's not going to mean anything to anybody who hasn't watched episode 537. So you may want to nostos to that episode and try and get all of the in-jokes. Sabi, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your handle. Is it Sabi1234 says this one is a mainstreamer? Absolutely. Sandra is saying hello again. Okay, what have we got for the purposes of this video? By the way, we are planning to do one more live video after this one. This is the newish, pretty new, I think, pour homme version of Dolce & Gabbana's Devotion. Now, Devotion came out 2023. And I think it came across as a bit of a pleasant surprise to everybody. Composed by Olivier Cresp, who just happened to have been behind one of Dolce & Gabbana's most successful fragrances from back in the day. It featured a kind of tangy, interesting, not entirely predictable, gourmandy, cakey, panettone type note. And apparently it has done rather well, because I think, I forget which way around it went, but they either started with an EDP and then it came out with an EDT, or vice versa, or an intense version. And so now, lo and behold, we have a pour homme Devotion, also by Olivier Cresp. Gavin says Katy Perry was the face of Devotion pour femme. Yes, somewhat unexpectedly. I mean, it took me a while in the advert to realise that it was her, and I thought that she looked quite convincingly stereotypically Italian, but I thought, wow, of all of the people you could have, why her? Couldn't you have got, I don't know, a sort of young Monica Bellucci type, or maybe even Monica Bellucci, I don't know. Oh, Gavin says it was an EDP, then an intense. Thank you very much. The pour homme, by the way, is an EDP as well. Now, I found out a little bit about the notes for it before I smelt it. And as you can imagine, if you're anything like me, with my sort of geeky perfume hat on, I thought, ooh, well, that's interesting, seeing as it's been made by Olivier Cresp. Because at the time when Devotion for Women came out, there were comparisons between it and Olivier Cresp's Bake for his own brand, Acro. There are similarities between the two scents, but I certainly wouldn't say that they're clones, and they each have something different to offer. I mean, I think I personally prefer Bake ultimately, but when I saw the notes list for this, for the men's version, and I saw that it supposedly contains lemon and coffee and patchouli, I thought, ooh, well, that's curious. Who's going to have a guess about what was the first word that came into my mind when I saw those notes listed? Bearing in mind, it's Olivier Cresp again. You've all gone quiet. This is when I worry about whether there's a lag in the conversation. Somebody's going to say it. I'll count to 5 and see if anything pops up, and if nothing does, then I'll just say it. You have all gone quiet. Alex's head has exploded for some reason. Anyway, so lemon, coffee, patchouli. Did it start with an F? Says Mitra Kai. No. I thought of Olivier Cresp's Awake again for Acro, because that has a strong coffee note, a kind of citrusy top as well. And I thought, well, I need to smell this, and I managed to get this mini as well. I mean, it's so nice that some brands still do make minis. The blotter here, we do have a pre-dipped blotter. The blotter has also been pre-scrunched up so that it can fit into the mini. I'm really quite surprised by this perfume, because it's almost as though somebody in the generification, the homogenization department at Dolce & Gabbana, it almost feels as though somebody was asleep and all of the creatives kind of managed to get this perfume under their nose and go, right, come on, this is the one we're pushing, this is the formula we're going to push. Because for a mainstream scent, and not just a mainstream scent, but a mainstream scent, from a super ultra mainstream brand like Dolce & Gabbana, the coffee note in this is something else. The lemon is there, and the lemon is quite convincing, but the lemon isn't the star of the show, and it doesn't take centre stage in the same way that it does with the kind of meringue pastry effect in Bake. Here the lemon seems to be serving as a contrast to the coffee. It seems to be giving the coffee luminosity, lifting it up, but the coffee note is way, 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 way stronger than I would have expected from anything in the mainstream. It's almost, not quite, but it's almost in the category of, when Lush years ago did coffee cardamom. That became, or cardamom coffee, whichever way around they called it, that became quite sweet because of the kind of caramelized cardamom-y effect. Mitrakai says, what kind of coffee? Is it a latte? Oh. I mean, I suppose maybe there is a kind of milkiness to it, but I thought it's maybe a sweet black coffee. And yes, I suppose there must be a kind of patchouli note in the base, because that's giving it the depth, that's giving it a kind of earthiness, a woodiness. Is it bitter, says Alex? I mean, it's certainly a lot more bitter than I thought it would be. And it's not a super sickly sweet gourmand. There is, I guess, a kind of gently vanillic feel to it. But it is bitter, it is bitter. And it made me think as well of, do you remember years ago that ill-fated, not very successful release from Jean-Paul Gaultier called Cocorico, which had a strong cocoa note. And I can't remember if that was done by Cresp. I seem to remember that, I think Annick Menardo had something to do with it. I'm just going to look it up, actually. So Cocorico was 2011. Yeah, Olivier Cresp and Annick Menardo. And that supposedly had fig leaf, cocoa and patchouli with cedarwood and vetiver. It made me think a little bit of the bitterness of that scent. Cocoa and fig by Menardo, says Gavin. Thank you very much. Is the scent reminiscent of coffee breath, says Eid? No. It is actually the coffee. Maybe there's a kind of tobacco inflection to it. Alex says, I miss the edges in mainstream perfumery today. I think the fact that D&G have done this bodes well. Maybe because the devotion for women, it is quite grand, it is quite bold, it is quite uncompromising in the statement that it makes. I mean, okay, maybe the statement it makes is also quite easy by virtue of the fact that it's a gourmand, but it is quite big, it is out there. Maybe somebody there thought, hang on, let's kind of try and push a different sort of strong note out there for the guys. I hope it does well, just so that maybe it might open up or give other brands permission to stop being so wishy-washy and stop creating all of these generic, predictable soups. Because that's one thing that this isn't. It isn't a soup. It's very, very clear in what it sets out to achieve. If you don't like the lemon-coffee combo, then okay, that's a matter of personal taste. But it's bold stuff. Alex says, maybe I must change my mind about that brand. I will try it. Maya says, a good coffee in such a mainstream line is a lovely surprise. I know. I completely agree. Not coffee soup, says Orisiros. No, not coffee soup. What do they say about it? They say, Dolce & Gabbana Devotion for Men EDP celebrates unwavering and unconditional devotion, the power of love and the joy of life. The fragrance, anchored by the timeless Sacred Heart, reflects the essence of a determined man confidently guided by his instincts and his hunt for a ristretto. The glass bottle of Devotion for Men features the same elegant silhouette as its female counterpart, reinterpreting its signature codes. The light gold fragrance is beautifully encased in a bottle adorned with etc., etc., etc. So not much about the perfume itself. They just sort of say lemon, fresh and zesty. Coffee, spicy and invigorating. Patchouli, earthy and deep. And that's it. It's almost as though they want to keep the messaging as super simple as possible. Then, of course, inevitably, there's a little bit about the advert because they've got the big Italian star whose name escapes me, Michele Morone. At least he's Italian. And we need to do the pre-dipped blotter as well. What are you folks saying about it? Gavin says, I tried Cardamom and Coffee by Lush recently. I thought too expensive, but lovely. I'm so excited by this. Well, how much does that cost nowadays? Have they increased the price of it then? Suleika says, I don't particularly like coffee perfumes, though I enjoyed Lush's Cardamom Coffee and Guerlain's Iris Torréfié. Milad says, top 10 designer perfumes of the decade, maybe as next video. Maybe, but you know I don't make that distinction so much. Alex says, in Greece, there's a very refreshing drink made out of coffee, lemon and ice. That's not what they call their frappé, is it? Because I know that the Greeks love having their frappé coffee. And I think the Caffè Nero chain in the UK, they one summer, I think, they experimented with a kind of citrusy coffee. They sort of put a sort of citrusy tonic water into the coffee. And it was kind of interesting, but it didn't stick around very long. Pre-dipped. So pre-dipped devotion, pre-dipped devotion. Gavin says 150 quid for 100 mils of cardamom and coffee. Oh gosh, they have gone up then. Anyway, this is the pre-dipped devotion. Right, so it's gone. It's doing something that I think Awake doesn't do. It's gone into a bit more of a mainstream patchouli. I guess that's where it's showing its mainstreamy sorts of colours. And what I mean by mainstream patchouli is a patchouli that just maybe doesn't have quite as much oomph as you might want it to, quite as much oomph as maybe a higher dosage of a higher quality patchouli might have from a sort of more independent brand. It just starts to feel a little bit on the thin side. But the coffee is still there. And maybe it's that element of it that is going to help some men feel a bit more confident to wear it. You know, maybe that kind of patchouli note will be the point of familiarity that they need. But either way, thumbs up, and seriously, well done to the brand for creating and releasing something like this. So not that devoted, says Mitrakai. Well, devoted enough. Try it. I am very, very much giving it a thumbs up for its opening. That coffee note was a genuine and very, very pleasant surprise. Okay, thanks for watching. We will be back in a few minutes with the latest from Nila Vermeer. It is worth the wait. Bye now.